It's like a giant jigsaw puzzle.
We're having to get the joints absolutely perfect. So it takes a little bit more time because we have to cut each piece instead of just laying it where it falls.
And it seems as if Ian's dripping flint wall effect has now disappeared.
Basically, Ian didn't like it, so it all came out and got changed for ordinary flint.
If we'd have carried on with it, it would have just been too contrived. Simon really liked it, Jeff and Anne really liked it when they saw it, but at the end of the day, I think I've probably bullied people into getting rid of it and just having it as a curvy flint wall, on the grounds that it was my idea in the first place, so I can do what I want with it. I hope that when this garden is finished, they'll see it as probably the best value lump of money they'll probably spend in their lifetime, because it's going to transform how they live here and how they occupy this house and occupy this landscape.
Such perfection does unfortunately mean the chances of getting this project finished by the end of summer are looking slimmer.
Originally it was going to be it was into July, but I think it's getting fairly well into August now.
The last thing Anne and Jeff need is more problems. 2 days later, Jeff has to take his mother to hospital in London, where she's to undergo a serious operation. It's a nervous time for him, but whilst there, he receives a bombshell that could stop everything in the garden.
They now want planning permission for the works that we're doing on the garden, which is a complete, I mean, clearly it had taken Ian by surprise, it's certainly taken us by surprise. This morning I felt completely and utterly, I don't know how I feel, I said to Anne, I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience, that I feel really numb, I feel very jittery. Just when we think we've got to the top of the mountains, some bugger comes out and steps on your fingers, and you know, we could do without this stress at this very, very moment, this week in time.
Sadly for Jeff, all of these planning problems pale into insignificance when days later, his mother passes away. Well, I mean, tackling a landscape like this is always challenging. It always throws up problems and can be really tough. But right now, what's going on with Anne and Jeff puts all of that into perspective, really, and just makes it even harder. With Jeff and Anne's attention naturally focused elsewhere, the uncertainty over planning means that work on site slows right down. I go to see Ian at his office to find out exactly what's happening. So I understand there is a potential issue with planning that might result in the site being shut down.
It may be that we're off-site for a week to 10 days. And if that's the case, then fine. It's not the end of the world. So as far
And if they say no?
Well, I don't think they will.
Right.
I think it's a bit scaremongery to start thinking, what are we going to do if they say no? It's just not going to happen, because along this whole process, we've meticulously gone through a shed load of details with them that actually, is much more fine-tuning than just the principle of the sunken garden. So it's just not going to happen.
I really hope that all the effort that Ian's put into talking to the planners, to putting the application together, pays off, and they come back and say, yeah, it's fine, and Ian can get the whip cracking and they can deliver this garden in time for Anne and Jeff, because if anyone deserves a garden, it's Anne and Jeff right now. There will now be an 8-week wait till the planners either reject or agree to the garden. With the project already behind schedule, Ian decides to carry on slowly with the works. The sunken garden needs planning permission, and it's already built. The tennis court, well, they can rip that up, but the moment they start making a wildlife pond, that needs planning permission too. The choice for Ian is stop everything completely or carry on, slowing things down, but he's carrying on. Every day that he carries on doing work, the risk mounts up because it's costing more money and it's increasing the chance the planners just come in and say, get rid of the whole lot.
Now the planners have come along and said, you need a planning application. We are proceeding at risk, but we're balancing and weighing up the risk. We could stop now and just wait for 3 months, but we're just going to quietly carry on, because otherwise the whole job will stop. You know, it's late for Anne and Jeff, we're into the worst time for planting. So it's a kind of balancing act of not doing anything stupid, but keeping the momentum of the job going.
A week later, and the old tennis court is nearly gone. At the end of July, Ian receives news from the planners.
So this morning was posted on the Wealdon District Council internet site, the outcome of the planning application for the garden, and I am almost bitterly sorry to tell you that we don't have a criminal garden. It's not the first criminal garden in the UK. There's not a hint of an illegal wildlife pond, nor a suggestion that this beautiful sunken garden may actually be arrested late at night sometime in the near future. So in short, we have a full, unconditional planning approval, which is nevertheless a great weight off most people's shoulders, and now we can get on with earnest and finish this project.
Finally, they've got the green light to create Anne and Jeff's dream landscape, and work can begin on the massive curved wildlife pond at the bottom of the garden. And they start laying the huge Cumberland stone slabs to create new paths. It's been an incredibly tough time for Anne and Jeff, and returning from a much-needed holiday, Anne is happy that they can now move on.
I think it probably has been one of the most difficult things we've done. But luckily we're fairly strong, so we've come through the other end. And it's going to be beautiful.
It's been a long time since I've seen Anne and Jeff, and they have been through the mill in that time. But now, having existed on paper for so long, the garden is coming alive, and I can't wait to see what the reality is. Wow! Look at that!
You like it?
Look at your garden. It's
enormous, isn't it?
It's massive. You've got the view becomes your garden as well. It kind of feels as if it's never ending. That's fantastic.
It is. You like it, yeah?
No, my first impression is exciting.
Oh, good.
And excited
good.
for you. Things are shaping up really nicely, but most importantly, they've got the paperwork for the planning consent. You know, the best thing about this, it makes all of this, your fantastic pond, the sunken garden, everything else that has been such a struggle to achieve, it means you can enjoy it. It's all legit. It's all above board. Yeah. Further down, the pond has been dug out and lined. This is it's a great vantage point here, isn't it, to see what's been achieved, and in particular, to see the pond, which is fantastic. And when you stand here now and you look back, you'll look across a body of water and you'll see the house in the background, and it is very clever the way the sunken garden just disappears, and from here you can't see it. I think it is really, really exciting. With everything that's happened to Jeff and Anne in the last few months, I'm keen to try and get them actively involved in their project. So we get planting some trees for their new orchard at the bottom of their garden. How have things been, you know, in general? I mean, because the last few months have not been particularly easy, have they?
No, I mean, pretty tough, primarily because it's just too much uncertainty.
I was very, very sorry to hear about your mum as well, Jeff. You know, presumably at a time when you could most do with not having that kind of personal grief, it's another kind of slap, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it was, because that was right. That happened the week where we had to decide, well, when they put the planning permission in, so everything was up in the air. That was a particularly bad, the beginning of June was a particularly bad time.
But it feels as if this is now beginning to get to a point where it can be a bit more of a celebration.
I hope so, because we haven't enjoyed it. We thought when we were doing this house and doing the garden would have been a really enjoyable experience, and in fact, it's actually been, you know, certainly this year has been almost like a sort of noose around our neck.
So this one can go in over here.
How big a hole am I digging?
The same depth as the pot, but about half again as wide all the way round. And now is a pretty good time to plant them.
Turn. right. Is that all right?
Yeah, it's okay.
I've enjoyed that. We've done something in the garden. That's great. We're a lot happier now. Yeah, things are gradually moving in the right directions and we do feel a lot happier.
It's lovely to see. I'm so used to sort of coming down here and not being crisis meetings, but seeing Anne and Jeff kind of a little bit down on the whole experience of what should have been a great celebration. But they're happy, they're loving it. They're enjoying doing things that they've probably not ever done before, like planting trees together. Stuff for the future, which is great. It is great, but it's now the beginning of August, and if all had gone according to the original plan, they'd have been finished by now. And actually, there's a mountain to climb to finish this garden.
6 weeks to finish this, which takes us to nearly the middle of September, and it has to be finished by then.
The landscapers are creating the intricate deck construction out of African hardwood, which, as with everything in Ian's design, is not straightforward. And with all the hard landscaping nearly finished, they can finally bring in some plants. Are you enjoying this, Anne?
I am actually.
But even with all this progress, I'm not convinced Ian's going to make his new mid-September deadline. So you're feeling confident that you can deliver this in 2 weeks?
I am, Matthew, feeling confident. I'm going to deliver this. We, all 9 of us, are going to deliver this in 2 weeks, yes.
It's a long way off being finished. What's happened is great, and there's some fantastic stuff, and I'm loving the detail that's going in, but there's a massive amount of work now to do in, a couple of weeks? And I can't see how it's going to be done. I wouldn't put my house on it, that's for sure. Anne and Jeff Shaw have been through one of the toughest years of their lives whilst trying to create their dream landscape in Sussex. This has been an unbelievable project. I mean, it's been on and off and on and off for months. It's been a roller coaster and everyone has been under pressure. But Ian made a promise to deliver a garden for Anne and Jeff. I hope for everybody's sake that he's managed to do it. It's been 10 months since my first visit, and as I approach the entrance, I'm delighted to see the changes. Stone paths bordered with ferns and woodland plants lie under a canopy of massive trees. It's understated and gives a warm, cosy feel to the entrance to this house. This is lovely, isn't it? It's like a little magical woodland by your front door. It's very nice.
Well, you haven't seen anything yet.
Look at you, you're really excited, aren't you?
We are.
Great.
We are really excited.
We're very excited.
Are you?
We are.
Show me more. Show me more. Show me the reason for this excitement. It's at the front of the house that I can't wait to see the transformation, as this was overgrown and rubble-filled, an embarrassment